Welcome to this week's episode of Eye on the Tigers. I'm Delaney Barrow, joined by Andy Huling. After taking our own bye week last week and coming back with a slightly different setup this week, we are prepared to talk about our usual slate of fall sports as they are quickly approaching their season's end. Let's get into it. First up, we have volleyball. The Tigers are still winless on this foundational season under new head coach Brent Crouch, but they have two more opportunities to gain a win this season. Andy, obviously a win would mean a lot for these Tigers in this season of regrowth, but what do you think the key to getting that win will be?
Obviously, Auburn's still struggling. They're still, trying to find their foot, and I think they just need to be more aggressive. I mean, they've laid out a good plan. They've had a lot of blocks. They've played really strong, and I think, they just need to get it in sets. They need to, keep fighting, and they need to establish some continuity between the players. And, I think just getting a set would be a confidence booster for this team, just knowing that they're able to start playing and they're able to start improving. But obviously you want wins. You want to keep winning, especially with a team that hasn't gotten their first win at home or away in the SEC. That would just be a huge morale booster.
Definitely morale is what this team needs, and I think a key is focusing on the small victories. Like you said, even just a set win would mean a lot for these Tigers, and head coach Brent Crouch has been talking about how the Tigers have been focused on themselves, and when they watch the film, they focus on their own improvements rather than what they can do to beat the other team. And because obviously those wins are going to come from within, and they can't just focus on the opponent, as each opponent's different. But they looked pretty promising at passing. I know they focused on blocking some, and I think there's a lot of sparks there. But like you said, getting even the smallest win would be a huge morale boost. But they still have the spring schedule to look forward to. So I don't think it's the end of the line if they don't get a win this fall season, but it would mean a lot to them. Next up, we have soccer. The Tigers lost their last two matches of the regular season against Texas A&M and in the Iron Bowl of soccer against Alabama. Next up, they will be traveling to Orange Beach for the SEC tournament this weekend. They already secured their bye in the first round today with their win in the previous week against LSU, but they'll start in the second round against the UGA Bulldogs in a matchup against a very talented team. Andy, how affected do you think this Tiger team is going to be by ending their season on those last two losses?
Obviously, it's not going to feel good going into the tournament with two losses. I mean, you take a loss to Texas A&M and then you take a loss to Alabama in a rivalry game. But I think they can still take confidence that, they were able to pull out some games down the stretch of the season that, they probably should have either ended in draws or Auburn honestly should have lost the game. But I think, going into this tournament, you're playing a rematch against Georgia, who they beat in a close match. They had a penalty kick by Sydney Richards, and even it picked up a red card from Maddie Brahowska. And I just think, it's going to be a tough match. I think Georgia wants revenge. They know how to play Auburn now. And I think Auburn's just going to have to come out and they're going to have to keep showing fight and determination to win because that's how they got here. That's how they won all the games that they did. And they're going to have to just take that into this tournament.
Yeah, definitely going to need that grit and determination. And when it comes to Georgia, not any discredit to the Tigers, but that was a game where everything kind of happened to go right for the Tigers against the Bulldogs. And Georgia's a very talented team, and they are going to be looking for revenge. But when it comes to the Alabama game and the Texas A&M game that they lost, they definitely had their opportunities, and they just a few misfires and not capitalizing completely. But the Tiger roster is so talented, and the team is only going to go up from here. They just had 4 players named to SEC honors, and I mean, Coach Hoppe is still proud of their performances, even though they did end in losses. I mean, Texas A&M, one of the top-ranked programs in the country, highest scoring in the SEC, and like we've talked about in previous weeks, Auburn soccer is very defensive-minded. And so in order to beat those really offensive-minded teams, not only are you going to have to shut them down, but you're going to have to outscore them. So if either of those don't happen, then it's really hard to get that win against a team like that. But going into the weekend, it'll be a really exciting matchup against those Bulldogs who are looking for revenge. So tune into the SEC Network to watch that. Our next Auburn sport is football. While the Tigers game against the Mississippi State Bulldogs got postponed until December 12th due to COVID-related issues on both teams, the Tigers still put on a very impressive performance against LSU 2 weeks ago. And this will be interesting next week because the Tigers will face off against Tennessee right before Thanksgiving, right before the Iron Bowl, after having 2 weeks off. But they are experiencing some COVID issues internally within the program. But if we look back at LSU and Auburn's performance against them, Andy, what was one of your main takeaways from that game?
Obviously, I think everyone was surprised at how good Auburn's offense played. They scored every time they were in the red zone, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown. I think, just the efficiency that Bo Nix had passing. I mean, he only missed 7 passes and threw for 300 yards. I think everyone was really, surprised at his performance after the last couple of weeks where he had just kind of struggled on the road, but, and really just struggled to have a clean game. And I think Auburn fans were really happy to see that. And also the defense. I really just think, the defense, came and they fought hard. They got turnovers, and that's really the key to the game.
Yeah, it really did look like the Auburn team was firing well on all cylinders. Offense, defense, everything was looking to click. Like you said, Bo Nix may not have been his best game statistically, but it definitely was a standout game, possibly the best of his career. And he, obviously, we've talked about, he plays much better at home, and he's going to be riding off of that. 2 home games in a row with Tennessee up next. And I think that was really good for him because he has faced doubt, and the critics have called him out for previous performances this season in games that definitely could have been won by the Tigers. But it's not only down to the quarterback, and the running game is clicking now too, and that's looking really good. Tank, DJ, all those players are really earning their spot on the team, and even defensively, the Tigers have been looking really good, and they've really shut down that LSU team. And Coach Kevin Steele was talking about how important it is to have all these players who are very enthusiastic, always wanting to contribute and not miss a rep in the game and just not sit on the bench and stay in for the whole time.
Yeah, everybody wants to play, and so they've taken their responsibility very seriously, and they're very mature about it. They're pros in that regard. The thing you have to watch is the pitch count that you get into. Because some of those games, get into 80, 85 snaps. That's a lot of snaps. And then the guys behind them are extremely young and inexperienced. So you got to be calculated when you substitute. I think that's probably been the biggest thing is that they've not wanted to come out. They're not over there asking for a break, and that speaks volume for their competitiveness.
Kevin Steele is not the only coach who's been really proud of the team's performance and progress this year. Chad Morris is also very happy with how the offense has been progressing so far this season, and he believes that they're still on the track to keep improving for the rest of the remaining games.
I think that as you studied us and broke us down over the last 6 weeks, you've definitely seen us evolve, especially in particular over the last 3 weeks. I think you've seen an offensive line that's started to develop some chemistry and has allowed us to run the football and be able to run the football effectively. I think we've seen Bo settle into what we're asking him to do. So I think it's all worked together. And, like I said, one of the most impressive things that I've seen all together is just continue to get a little bit better each week. So I would say that we're continued to be a work in progress. But I think it's also we have a really good idea of who we are and what we're good at.
Now we know Auburn's game against Mississippi State has been postponed to December 12th due to COVID-related issues within both of the programs. But they're not the only football game that's had to have been either postponed or canceled this weekend. 4 total SEC games have gotten postponed to that week of December 12th, and several other games in other conferences have also gotten either postponed or canceled. Andy, what do you think the implications are of all these postponements and cancellations for these football teams?
Well, obviously the SEC has the most games canceled this weekend. I think for college football fans, that's not going to be great for them because the SEC is one of the best conferences in the country. And there were a lot of good games this weekend, like Bama, LSU, Auburn, Mississippi State. The list goes on. But I also have to question the validity of moving these games to December. I mean, obviously, like Georgia and Florida right now are in a tight race in the SEC East to go to Atlanta. And Florida gets to play this weekend, but Georgia doesn't. And now Georgia will make up this game, but I still wonder, maybe they play this game this weekend. And then Florida also plays as well. How do the standings look come December 19th when the SEC championship will be played? So, I think there's some questions to be answered, but I think the SEC is trying to do the best that they can to make sure that it all runs smoothly to the SEC championship game.
They definitely are trying to do their best to make sure that everything still happens the way they planned. I know they had tons of contingency plans, and Commissioner Greg Sankey was talking about how it might be one missed week, but they're not losing hope. They're still going to try to finish the season strong, and I think that's really important because we've made it this far. I mean, Auburn, the team itself has gone at least 6 weeks without a positive case, and that's really encouraging. This week, there just happened to be a small outbreak, and wow, it's good that the game got canceled ahead of when Auburn released that information so that they would hopefully have time to recover. But I think personally all eyes right now are on the Iron Bowl. They're not looking at Tennessee, they're looking at the Iron Bowl and what would happen if that game got canceled. Everybody looks forward to that game, whether or not you're an Auburn or Alabama fan. It's just the weekend of college rivalry games, and I think that could be a big issue if next week's game happens to get canceled, depending on whichever program. And the rest of the season, there's not a lot of games remaining, but it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out because this virus is still very much a real thing. Numbers are increasing, and everybody just needs to continue to be cautious if they would like to continue this college football season. So hopefully everybody will take this weekend as a warning, and we will be able to get through everything because, like you said, the SEC playoffs and the rankings and everything, they all hinge on this. So this is the time to crack down and just make sure that everybody is prioritizing the remaining games in this season. For our final segment, we have our weekly pick'ems. Starting out with college football, first up, we have Northwestern Purdue. Andy, who do you have?
Well, this is going to be a good game. I think Northwestern will win this game, but Purdue, they always come to fight. They're a good team in the Big Ten. It'll be a close one, but I think Northwestern gets the win.
I'm going to have to go with Purdue in this. I really like their quarterback, and I think Milton Wright is a great playmaker. And Northwestern has kind of struggled to score in the second half of the game. They have not had any struggles scoring in the second half of the game. But I think that Purdue's defense has done a good job of stopping those third down conversions, and I think that that's going to give the Boilermakers the win. Next up, we have Miami versus Virginia Tech. Andy, who do you have?
I like Miami in this game. Virginia Tech coming off that loss to Liberty. Still some questions for them to answer. I really like De'Aaron King. I like how their offense plays. I think Miami right now is still in the fight to go to the ACC championship game. They got questions to answer from other teams. Notre Dame, Clemson's still in there. But I think Miami's really making a case that they belong in the ACC. And really, I'm just impressed with their offense.
This will be a good game to watch. I think that I'm going to have to go with the slight favorites, Virginia Tech. I have been impressed with Miami's performance this past season so far, but Virginia Tech, they're coming off of a loss against a pretty talented Liberty team, and I think that in these big games, they always come to play. And I think that Miami, they've had a few struggles, and I think that if they don't fix those before this game, I think Virginia Tech is going to walk away with this win. Next up, we have Michigan versus Wisconsin. Who do you have?
Well, Michigan really needs this win to kind of get back on track, but I don't think it's going to happen. I like Wisconsin, the way they run the football. Their defense is sound, and Michigan just has a lot of answers to make this weekend. I just don't think they're going to have them, and I just don't see anything turning around right now for Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines.
I think this game is going to be, I think I agree with what you said. It depends a lot on how it's going to determine how Michigan's season ends. And if they lose, then the rest of their season's just kind of down the drain, spiraling out of control. But I think that Wisconsin, if their quarterback is back, I think that's going to definitely give them an edge. But even if Wisconsin's quarterback isn't back, I think that they're going to get this win. But Michigan is going to be playing in desperation mode, so it'll be an interesting matchup to watch. For our last college football matchup, we have the Holy War, Boston College versus Notre Dame. Who do you have?
Well, Notre Dame obviously is riding off this high of beating Clemson. I like their offense. I like how they play. Boston College will make this a good game. It's in BC. I think they'll come to play. They played really well against Clemson. I thought their defense made plays when they had to. But I just really like Notre Dame in this game. I think Ian Book is the difference. The way he makes plays with his arm, but also on his feet. He made some huge runs against Clemson to give them first downs on third and long plays. So I'm going to say Ian Book is the difference for the Irish.
I too have been really impressed with Boston College's performance, especially against Clemson, and I do think that Notre Dame is going to get this win, but I'm not discounting Boston College. They're going to be coming out with a lot of fire and determination, especially because this is their red bandana game. But it'll be an interesting matchup between Ian Book and his former backup at Notre Dame, or at Boston College, and I think this will be a really good game to watch. But I think that Notre Dame will pull away in the second half, but I also wouldn't doubt it if Boston College kept it close the whole time. So definitely a game to watch this week. Next up, we have NFL. First matchup is Cardinals versus Bills. Andy, who do you have?
I like the Bills in this game. I thought they were really impressive against the Seahawks. They had scored 44 points on them, and I thought that they played really, really well on offense. Their defense maybe gave up a lot of points, but that's just the Seahawks. They love to score. And I think they will limit Kyler Murray. And the Cardinals are a good team, but after losing to the Dolphins, they can't feel good. They're going to need to get this win this weekend, but give me the Bills in this game.
I think coming off of a loss, the Cardinals, it was a game they should have won. They were close, but it wasn't a game. It was a tough game. They fought till the end. Kyler Murray, he's been doing really good this season, not only with the passing, but also with his own rushing. And I think that the Bills are going to struggle to shut that side down. And I think if Kyler Murray continues to be as much of a dual-threat quarterback as he has been, the Cardinals are going to get this win. Next up, we have Bucks versus Panthers. Who do you have?
I like the Bucks in this game. I think Carolina. They are a really good team. They're fighting hard, but I think Tom Brady will bounce back after that embarrassing loss to the Saints. It did not look pretty for them at all. I thought Drew Brees was just phenomenal in the game, but give me the Buccaneers in this one.
I have to agree with you. I think the Buccaneers are going to walk away with a clear win here. Panthers, Brady's second game of the season where he got his first win as a Buccaneer, and I think that the Buccaneers have made tremendous strides since then. They have had some random off games like last week where they just played kind of embarrassingly, but I think that the Panthers have not progressed as much as the Bucs, and I think that's going to be the key difference, is just where Tampa Bay was at the beginning of the season versus now, and where the Panthers were then versus now. Next up, we have Saints versus 49ers. Who do you have?
I like the Saints in this game. I thought, coming off that win, like we talked about against the Buccaneers, I think they're really rolling right now. I think they're hitting their stride. Alvin Kamara, Drew Brees have been really impressive. And the 49ers have a good defense. I think they'll make it a game, but just Drew Brees is the difference for the Saints in any game.
I agree. The Saints hinge all on Drew Brees, and the 49ers have been plagued with so many injury issues, and I don't think that they can muster in them the will to beat the Saints, especially such a talented Saints team. Watching what they did dismantling the Buccaneers last week, and like you said, Drew Brees is such a difference maker, and each week he's continuing his arsenal of wide receiving cores and just throwing to those different names, and I think that his versatility and who he's able to pass to really means a difference for the Saints offense. For our final NFL matchup, we have Seahawks versus Rams. Andy, who do you have?
I like the Seahawks in this game. I think Russell Wilson is the factor always for them. He's also got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and the wide receivers that he can throw to. Their offense is just really going right now. I know they took a loss to the Bills, but they scored 34 points in that game, and that's a lot, especially on the Bills' defense. So give me the Seahawks in this one.
I don't think the issue with the Seahawks is their offense. Obviously, Russell Wilson still in the All-Star MVP race, but I do think their defense has kind of deteriorated throughout the season, and I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game, and that's why I'm going to have to go with the Rams. I think Jared Goff has put up some good numbers, and the Rams are looking like a very well-rounded team. Some games play a little off, but for the most part, they've done a great job of fixing the mistakes in previous weeks, and I think that they're going to be looking to take advantage of the Seahawks team that lost in that game last week. Do you agree with our picks? Do you disagree? Do you have any opinions on how COVID will affect the rest of the college football season? Go hang out with us on Twitter at EagleEyeEETV_sports, or visit our website at Eagle Eye Auburn for more sports and news updates. I'm Delaney Barrow, joined by Andy Hewling. Have a great weekend, and War Eagle.